Last December, when organizer Mukesh Sharma first asked me which aspect of serendipity I wanted to speak about, my instant choice was something that had fascinated me for decades. The sheer coincidence of who we are, in other words, our identity, and how it impacts our lives. Here is what I wanted to say. We live in an age of connection and information. Data was a privilege for centuries. Now it is available to everyone as news, the internet, and social media. Thanks to this rapid flow of information, everybody can have an opinion about everything. What's more, people are able to make decisions faster. A small business owner can check worldwide prices online in seconds. Multinational executives can hire remote workers from anywhere. In the bigger half of countries, people can vote on national issues and choose their leaders in ways unimaginable even 100 years ago. Of course, we pay a price for this speed and efficiency. The information that floods to us leaves less time and energy to think. Just listen to how people debate the difference between possible directions of the economy or political parties, or how to deal with immigration. How managers discuss the best way to develop, produce, or market a product. Read comments about similar issues on social media. Notice the growing tendency to argue emotionally, even passionately, based not so much on what is proven right, but what feels right. What's the matter with you? People ask one another. Don't you see my argument is obvious? Isn't it common sense? From ordinary social media users to CEOs and presidents, people increasingly form and express opinions by being passionately convinced first and getting the facts later, if at all. A reform-minded education system also plays a part. While previous generations were taught to make decisions based on what they knew and how the world worked, today's young people are taught to decide based on who they are and how the world should work. Politicians call this identity politics, business people speak of mission, vision and core values, and many call it common sense. Whatever you call it, it is based on the assumption that to feel right equals to be right. It is hard to argue with someone who feels right, because their opinions depend on who they are and what they believe in. But who they are and what they believe in is actually a result of a series of coincidences. Personality, the most fundamental force behind values, opinions, and decisions, is the outcome of the same genetic lottery that determines height, voice, food allergies, or the shape of your nose. As for the rest of your tastes, views, likes and dislikes, skills and experiences, what was not genetically determined was shaped by the culture of the family and country where you were raised and the academic and professional communities where you gained experience. Every day, people face dilemmas. They must choose between a humble but steady or a challenging but glorious profession, or between safe and modest or risky but lucrative investment. Understandably, they make choices according to the preferences pre-programmed in their genes and developed according to the culture of their surroundings. The more experience you have, the clearer you see the trends that scientists study and us consultants use for advising business, political, and community leaders. Like, Japanese people play safer than Brazilians. Americans are more competitive than Swedes and Thais. On average, women have more empathy than men, and young workers decide faster than their seniors. I wanted to say in my speech that, in a way, everyone is right. The more you know about someone's natural-born character and background, including your own, the better you can understand and predict their choices. Of course, not all preferences are created equal. In some situations, risk-taking is the solution. In others, caution is advisable. Some problems are best solved through teamwork, others by solitary contemplation. When life presents you with mutually exclusive choices, the wisest thing to do is to first reflect on which option appears obviously intuitively better as a result of your nature and nurture. Then, to figure out whether that option is indeed the best one in the given situation. Well, that's what I wanted to say when I prepared my first draft in January. Then COVID-19 came crashing in. First in China, where I lived and stayed until early 2020, then to Europe, where I come from and returned to in mid-March. And if I ever needed an example of how accidental identity plays out on a large scale, it was suddenly everywhere. There were no sporting events, but the coronavirus pandemic replaced the World Cup. Everybody had an opinion about how to conquer it, and people were quick to pick winners and losers. The definition of winning was unclear, but most nations adamantly defended their approach. Some were proud of their low numbers, others the austerity of their countermeasures, still others the courage to carry on as normal. All sides felt justified to criticize their opponents in much harsher ways than before. After all, this time, everyone's life depended on making the right choice, and the right choice was obviously their choice. Debates have recently become even more dramatic as people realize that beyond the COVID-19 pandemic, the decisions we make now will influence a different reality of work, business, education, and so forth after the pandemic. Take the example of remote work. Some see it as a safe, reliable, and affordable alternative to all the overseas travel, investment, and teamwork we did before. Others look at it as an emergency measure until meaningful personal connections can resume. Those who root for virtual humanity claim that skeptics are stuck in the past. The other side insists that technology should support human communities, not the other way around. From one angle, resuming normal business as soon as possible looks like courage. From the other, it seems irresponsible. Similarly, staying virtual may seem cautious or cowardly according to one's nature and nurture. Understanding how accidental identity shapes decisions is timelier than ever. 2020 puts us on the spot more often than recent years and makes us take sides between mutually exclusive choices. The stakes are higher, the pressure more tangible. Information is overwhelming, and we must make up our minds fast. In other words, COVID-19 and what comes afterwards will force us all to think a bit like the directors, CEOs, and managers I have coached, trained, and advised for the last 20 years. That is why I feel that the need to share some methods we use in intercultural leadership consulting is more urgent than ever. So, next time you face two mutually exclusive alternative solutions to an important problem, one of them will usually feel intuitively right, the other one wrong. When that happens, first, make sure to stop. Take a few deep breaths and remember, feeling right doesn't equal being right. In fact, if one option is correct, it doesn't even imply that the other one is wrong. In most cases, people don't disagree with one another because some know and some don't. Most disagreement comes from human diversity. Ever since the first human lived in caves, communities have needed people who boldly explore the unknown and fight if necessary, and others who stay behind and protect and organize stuff, experience, and other people. In modern communities, this kind of diversity lives on in many ways. In a typical company, salespeople want everything to be faster, cheaper, and more flexible. Product people want time, resources, and order. They will never convince each other. The company would be in trouble if they did. Instead, the dynamics between their values, opinions, and approaches is exactly the force that moves the firm forward. At any given time, each team has half of the complete picture. Without sales reps, product builders would have no clients. Without engineers, salespeople would have nothing to sell. Long live diversity. Similarly, proponents of remote work often mention e-commerce as a way to stay safe in a post-COVID economy. But delivery still depends on a logistical network of people with the courage to manufacture, harvest, package, sort, store, load, and deliver the goods. Yes, people working from the protection of their homes or closer communities may be the way of the future. Perhaps most will do. If you were born with a cautious personality or raised by a vigilant community, going out there may seem reckless. But safe islands of remote workplaces will still rely on an outgoing minority that serve as the eyes, ears, legs, and arms of those who stay protected. Or perhaps it's the other way around. Perhaps you see staying safe as weak or elitist, and exposure as a sign of courage. If you feel that way, thank your genetic code and the people who raised you to be resilient and ambitious. But don't forget, those who take risks are also more vulnerable, and when trouble strikes, they need urgent help from a well-protected base. Courage or caution? Practical or social? The forces that place you on either side are accidental. A tiny twist in your DNA could have resulted in a completely different temperament from what you now cherish as your own. One of your great-great-grandparents could have decided to migrate or not to migrate, placing you on the other side of a cultural borderline. Whoever and wherever you are, you hold half of a convoluted puzzle to which people with different opinions hold the missing pieces. I know that in key moments, it's a challenge to follow such advice, but please remember, human nature and nurture, in all its complexity and diversity, has emerged exactly for situations like the one we are experiencing now, and has helped us to survive over the centuries and millennia. Thank you.